Cairns.
Tánaiste, NASA Horrigan said that the Green Party values were not represented when the coalition leaders agreed to lift the eviction ban. Can I ask, were Fianna Fáil values represented in the room when you took that decision? I know this may seem like a redundant question, given that the Minister for Housing is a member of Fianna Fáil, but I think people, including your own supporters, would like to know. How is it that Fianna Fáil, which is rightly proud of its previous record on housing generations between the 1930s and 70s, is now endorsing homelessness, not housing? Your own Minister, Darragh O'Brien, has been clear. Homelessness will increase as a result of this decision. There is no debate about that. We know the consequence will be desperate, particularly for children who suffer long-lasting damage when they become trapped in insecure and unsuitable emergency accommodation. That's why, Tánaiste, it's important to remember that what you are doing is a choice. You're not being forced to do this. There are other options. I've listened to the attempts to justify this shameful decision with an increasing sense of disgust and utter disbelief. Who do you think you're kidding? The half-baked plans that you've announced, which you claim will support tenants and landlords, won't be in place for many months. And that's an optimistic appraisal. For one, we're told landlords will be compelled to give their tenants first refusal when they sell. Yet no one in government can tell us when that legislation will be enacted or even drafted. Secondly, approved housing bodies, we are told, will be able to craft bespoke cost rental agreements for tenants at risk of homelessness. Again, no one knows when this will be up and running. It's also unclear why, if you wanted to introduce these supports, they're not ready to go. What were you doing for the duration of the eviction ban? Why were the draft outlines of these supports only cobbled together at the Cabinet meeting on Tuesday? The lack of respect for those people about to become homeless is truly astounding. You have clearly done zero planning for this. You are making it up as you go along. Tánaiste, thousands of people, including extremely vulnerable children, are going to be made homeless in 3 short weeks. They don't know where they're going to go, neither do you. Tánaiste, I have just 2 questions. Were Fianna Fáil values represented in the room when you decided to end the eviction ban? Are you aware of any other housing minister in the history of the state who has openly admitted to deliberately opting to make people homeless?
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate the Deputy on your elevation as leader of the Social Democrats. I didn't get the opportunity in the House to do so to date, and I wish you the very best in that respect. And could I say, in terms of Fianna Fáil values, I think Fianna Fáil values were reflected when we decided to form the government to take on the housing portfolio, notwithstanding the challenges that had built up over the years, and to make a real difference. And that difference is manifest already in the fact that last year, over 10,000, close to 10,000 social homes were delivered. That's the highest since 1975. And I made it a priority that we would build social houses. And we are turning the corner in terms of social housing, the highest since 1975. And this year, through a combination of new build, leasing and acquisitions, we target 12,000 social houses to be delivered. But in addition to that, we have to help young people who value home ownership and who want to own their own homes through a variety of schemes that we've introduced, from the Affordable Housing Act, right through the Help to Buy, which was run by the previous government, the First Home Scheme. We've improved the Help to Buy scheme. 33,000 young people have benefited from the Help to Buy scheme. Over 1,100 people have benefited from the First Home Scheme. And I point out that your party opposed both schemes. Your party opposed the Affordable Housing Act. And I think, fine, you can oppose, but you need to come up with real solutions, because ultimately the solution here is supply. No one in this House has a monopoly in terms of commitment to housing. No one has. Your party doesn't. And I think you should resist the temptation to suggest that everyone on this side of the House is heartless, cruel, and couldn't care less. That's unfair and doesn't add up. I've made housing the priority of this government, along with my colleagues in government, the three parties have said three key priorities: housing, health reform, climate change. You look at a variety of schemes that we introduced on housing. All new Creek Cona. We introduced the Land Development Agency, which again you opposed. And I would simply say that by any yardstick, going from 20,000 houses to 30, it's all too low still, we still have to do more, is a significant turning of the corner last year, notwithstanding COVID-19 in the first 2 years of government, which we had lockdowns and so on. But and those are facts that you can't just dismiss. So in terms of then, to come to the point, the real decision, the popular decision would have been to keep it going, keep the rent ban eviction going. That would have been actually popular, and it would have been, but it would not have been a sustainable position to adopt in terms of the supply question. We would have made it worse for people who would come into further difficulty in terms of getting access to housing. That was the dilemma. People are not coming into the rental market.
Thank you, Taoiseach. The time is up.
And people are leaving the rental market.
Time is up, please.
The advice is very strong from those with a degree of experience and expertise in the housing market, please, that if you do this, you will damage and undermine prospects of people to get homes into the future.
Deputy Cairns.
Taoiseach, I don't think that I should need to remind you that you're in government, not the Social Democrats. And you talk about the things that we oppose. Imagine if we'd supported the government's decisions on housing. That's what's led us here. We oppose your decisions because we think that they're wrong. And it's not about what we think. The evidence is in the number of people who are homeless. 12,000 people homeless. And we're looking at, in 3 weeks' time, an additional 3,000 homes being homeless. We don't know how many people that is. We don't know how many children it is. We're not trying to hide the fact that we oppose your suggested legislation on housing because it's not working. And this decision will make it worse, not better. I'm asking if your values, traditionally, are represented in the decision to end an eviction ban in the middle of a housing crisis when all of the measures that you're saying will help the situation have yet to be even ironed out. We don't even know when they'll be introduced. The way you're explaining them as if they would work would be if they were going to be introduced before the ban is lifted. And that hasn't happened. It's clear to everybody. You're making it up as you go along. Will you please consider reversing this decision before 3,000 more households are actually forced into homelessness?
Thank you, Deputy Cairns.
Sorry, it was this government introduced the eviction ban. This government introduced the eviction ban.
And what's
the first time in the history of the state. Everybody in this House says it should be temporary, to one degree or another. All of you do. So there's terrible hypocrisy in the debate, because Sinn Féin says we should lift it at Christmas time, a couple of days after Christmas Day. That's the stated position of Sinn Féin. And how dishonest is it? The Deputy has made the point that, I don't want to paraphrase, you more or less said it doesn't matter what we say. Of course it does. Like there's an obligation on everyone in the House. If you oppose, come up with solutions. Come up with ideas.
We do.
But you don't.
You vote them all down.
And also I make the point that I don't understand how you can say that the Help to Buy scheme, which helps 33,000 young purchasers, and you just dismiss that and you oppose it. It helps the young people to get an access to buy a house and to get into a house. Now, maybe you're against home ownership, I don't know, if that's your position. But I would make the point on the leasing, the 1,000 leasing, the 1,000 from the adjustment to CAV funding, and also the 1,500 in respect of the in situ policy, basically saying to the local authorities that if someone is in threat of homelessness now, we're saying to local authorities, buy the house. And that would go as a directive and a circular to local authorities. That's the immediate response.